Okay, very nice work on lesson 5, Bootstrap components. Next, we're going to take what we've learned about buttons and glyphicons to create a contact page for Kids Portfolio. Last time we worked on this project, we added this beautiful structure. I know it's really tiny here, but hopefully this looks familiar. We added in some color on the nav bar, this beautiful logo for the main Jumbotron, and then we worked on the castle gallery image, and we added in the images of the castles using our public domain images. So what we're going to do today is add in this button on that castle page that's going to link to the contact page. And the contact page is basically going to look like this. It's going to have this beautiful group of buttons with these beautiful icons and quite a bit to do here. But before we get started, remember the first step is copying and pasting all the code over from the previous lesson. So to save time and shorten the video a little, I've already went ahead and done this step. So you're going to want to hit pause, head over or head back to lesson 4 and copy over the code for index, the castle gallery, the gallery page, and the style sheet. So these 4 files. The contact page is brand new. We were just given this. So this one you don't have to worry about. And remember, you can just go back and right click your portfolio project and open it up in a new tab so you don't lose your place of where you're currently at. And that way, all you have to do is kind of just switch between these windows as you copy and paste your work. Remember the keyboard shortcuts for copy, Control C, and for paste, Control V. So go ahead, copy your code over. Remember, you want the code for all 4 of these files, and then we'll dive into the contact page. Okay, really nice work. Now that you've copied over your code, you're ready to start building the contact page. So let's start out with part 1 of the instructions, which is filling out contact HTML. So first thing we're going to want to do is create a div with the container fluid. We've done this many of times. This is what's going to give us that beautiful responsiveness as we change screen sizes and we adjust our screen size, or if we're using this or accessing it on different devices, we'll see that it adjusts accordingly. So I'll demonstrate that in a moment again, just to remind you what this does. Inside of this container, we're going to be putting in our links for home and gallery. This is the example that we have to follow. So I'm just going to use that to model what I need. And since these are links, I'm also going to make sure to include that anchor tag. First one is linking to the home page, which is index.html. Text is home. Second one is same exact thing, so I'm going to copy that and paste it. This one is linking to gallery, so it's gallery HTML, and the text is galleries. All right, so far so good. So we got the first part down. This is going to give us that nice nav bar at the top. Now we're going to go down and add in that page header. So following the instructions again, this one's going to have the container class, and we're also going to give it the page header class, which is going to give it that nice little underline effect that you see. Inside of here, we'll have the H1 that says contact kit. And to create that subtext, I'm going to make a space and use the small tag to wrap around. So just say hi is the subtext, and this will just make it a little smaller, giving you that subtitle. All right, beautiful. Let's test this out and see how things are looking. Save. I'm going to run the code, and then I'm going to also open it up in a new window. This is going to be helpful as we continue to make changes. We can just refresh this. Okay, great. Looks wonderful so far. Looks exactly like what we're aiming for in the instructions, minus the fact that the background is white. But remember, our homepage has this nice gray background. So to keep things consistent throughout and to create this uniform design, I'm going to leave that part the same. So gray background is fine. Let's test our home link, make sure it takes us to the right place. Wonderful. And let's test the galleries link as well. This is part of any good developers' coding habits. We want to make sure everything we're developing and coding is working. So if we break it up as we go along the way, makes the job a lot easier. And we know our page header looks fine. Beautiful. Now we're ready to start building our buttons. So this isn't explicitly in the instructions, but I'm going to go ahead and create a separate container for the buttons so we don't interfere with this page header here at the top. And I just want to say right off the bat that there is not one correct way to achieve this that you see here. There are going to be classes that you will need, of course, elements that you're going to need and components that you need, but you could probably code it up in different ways and still get the same result. So just remember and keep that in mind. You may approach this differently and still get what you need. All right, so inside my container div, I'm going to create the buttons, and I had to consult the Bootstrap docs to remind myself which button it was that was this light blue button we're looking for. And it looks like info's the closest, so I'm going to use the docs here. Button info is the class we need for that. So really, really important to know and remind yourself that docs are a great resource to use. All great web developers use them because, again, there's no way we can memorize all of this stuff and no reason we need to. So you can just consult the docs when you need to. And I did in this case to remind myself which button it was that we needed. So to create the button, we're going to need the button tag. Type is going to be equal to button, and the class is equal to BTN because we're in the button class, and we need the info button. Last but not least, I'm going to use my disabled attribute and set it to disabled. These buttons are not going to actually be links anywhere, so in order to notify the user with an illustrative manner, we're going to just disable the buttons, which is going to fade them out. And notice that it's really bright blue by default, and when you disable them, you get this faded light blue, making it a little bit more opaque. So we just achieve that with the disabled attribute. Last but not least, we're going to add in the icon. So remember from our previous exercise, we need the span. We also need the glyphicon class, and then you put which icon you want. In this case, we want the male one, so it's going to be, having some spelling issues, glyphicon-male. Hopefully I remember that correctly. And we're going to close it. Nothing goes in the span tag. Inside of the button, the text we want in this case is going to be email me, and I'm putting a space just so my icon isn't like glued to my text. By default, these buttons are block level elements, so I don't have to worry about any text sitting next to it. But just to make things more readable in my code, I'm going to go to the next line anyway and type in Kit's email. After we put this part in, we can go ahead and test it out. Once we confirm that it works, we can use the same thing for the rest of our buttons. Okay, beautiful. I think we got everything in. Let's save it. Let's refresh. See how things are looking. Okay, so not exactly the effect I was going for. Let's go back and double check. Button type equals button info disabled. Oh, duh. We forgot our btn-block. Okay, this was in the instructions, and again, I also had to go into the docs as well to figure out what this did. And as I was saying, the BTN block makes it a block level element, which by default will not let any other text sit next to it. So the final result is actually going to look like this. Now, opinions may be divided here on whether or not this is the best visual design, and if you don't think it is, I probably agree with you. I think this is a little too wide, maybe wider than it needs to be. And if you're wondering why it doesn't look like it does in the instructions, the reason is in the instructions we're looking at like a smaller mini web browser, so it's something more like this that would probably mimic more of a mobile device size. So if you look at the instructions, this is what we're seeing, and this is what we're going for. So just to keep things, consistent with CodeHS, we're going to leave it as is, but just know that, of course, if this was your own project, you could customize this and change its width, or just forego that BTN block class altogether and not do a block level element. You could just leave it small. So moving on, let me put this back into my browser. Let's go over into the code and let's add the rest of our buttons. So same thing, we're going to need this for the rest of the buttons. So I'm going to just paste that 3 more times, and I'm just spacing it out to make things more readable. That isn't really going to make a difference at all in the layout. We'll have to change the content, of course. So going back here, next one we're going to need is the home icon, and the text is going to be mail me with her email. And that's going to, oh no, sorry, this is her address. So 555 Photo Drive. This we're going to have to break up so it's on separate lines. So BR tag for that. Here, Maryland at 19191. Beautiful. Next, we're going to need that thumbs up. So it's just glyphicon thumbs dash up. The text is find me. So this would be for her social, and her handle is going to be at SuperKitPhotos. Excellent. Moving on, last but not least, we have that phone. That one I don't know off the top of my head. Oh yeah, I looked it up earlier. Okay, so it's the Glyphicon earphone. I thought it was just phone, and when I was testing it, it wasn't working out. So Glyphicon earphone. This was one I had to dig for myself. Okay, and we're going to change the text to call me. Phone number is 888-123-5555. Excellent. Let's test this out, see how things are looking, refresh what we have, and this looks excellent. Very, very nice work. Oh, noticing my mail icon's not showing up. Let's go back and see what that's about. So that should be the mail icon. Oh, it may be envelope. Yeah, it's envelope. Okay, so again, there's tons of icons, and some I know off the top of my head, some I obviously don't. Let's save, refresh. Okay, perfect. So this is exactly what we're going for. Let's save our work. You may need a break after this. If you do, I don't blame you. And then we're going to go in and add one last button on the galleries page, which is going to link us back to contact. Okay, so let's save and let's go over to our gallery, castle gallery actually, and let's add in that button next. Very nice work so far. Okay, very nice work. You've made it to the last part of this exercise, which is adding in the link to the contact page on Castle Gallery HTML. So this was the page we worked on in the last exercise or last lesson. And to get there, you're just going to head over to galleries and then go over to Castle. So this should look familiar. We added in this image grid last time. Notice that the nav bar doesn't have a link to any other page except home and galleries. So we want to add that contact button, and it's going to look exactly like this, and it's going to link over to contact HTML that we just built. So over on Castle Gallery HTML, you're going to go over to the nav at the top, and then under the link to the galleries page, you are going to, oops, I just noticed that's set to the wrong file name. Anyway, you're going to add in a link to the contact page first and foremost, because that's what we're creating, a link. And inside of this, we'll put in our button. So the button type is going to equal button. Class is going to equal button because we're in the button class. Let me collapse this to make it a little easier to read. And we want the primary button. Again, if you go over to the Bootstrap docs, you can see the primary button is the one you want, and that's BTN primary. So this lesson is definitely demonstrating the importance and usefulness of docs. So button, BTN primary. And I'm not going to disable it this time because this is actually going to be an active button that's going to link to somewhere. So next thing I'm going to put in is my icon. That's going to be the Glyphicon class. And the icon I want is the exclamation sign. Lots of code on this line. Let me see what's next. So after we add in the span icon, or Glyphicon, we are going to just create a space. Again, I don't want that icon glued to my text. So I'm just going to make a little space, contact me, and that should do it. So let's save it. Let's refresh our work and see what we have. Okay, great. This looks excellent. Let's test it out, make sure it's going over to the right place. And it does. So ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. You've just completed your 4th photo portfolio exercise. This is coming along really wonderful. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think this looks really great. Bootstrap's been wonderful in making things look really nice and professional and very well spaced out. Contact page is completed. If you have any questions, let me know. Keep up the great work. At this point, we're halfway through the photo portfolio exercise. I will see you in the next lesson where we're going to be diving into even more Bootstrap components. I'll see you there. Nice job.